Welcome back to part 4. During this part, we're going to look at how to write your introduction and conclusion for your research paper, and then also how to start your final research paper. So first thing is you want to open up the graphic organizer introduction and conclusion. So once you open that up, it should look something like this. And the directions say, fill out the graphic organizer to help you write both your introduction and conclusion. Follow each step down below. So step 1, you're going to click on this YouTube video, and it's going to take you to a short 2-minute video on how to write a hook. A hook is the first sentence to your introduction, and it needs to be interesting, fun. It needs to get the reader interested and ready to read your paper. So you're going to watch this 2-minute video. After that, you should know how to write your hook, or also called an attention getter. So the 3 ways, though, I'm giving you the option to do or write about as your first sentence in your introduction paragraph is you can either start with a question, a statistic, or a surprising fact. So again, the example I've been doing for you is surrounded by the idea of Hurricane Maria. So I'm pretending that my topic is Hurricane Maria. To help me out and remind me what my body paragraphs were all about and what my paper was all about, I'm going to have to open up my Hurricane Maria research. So this was the one with your 3 websites and your research information and facts. So you're going to want to open up that, and then you're probably going to also want to open up your natural disaster body paragraphs. So these were the 2 sheets you turned in last week that you finished for your research stuff. So this stuff is going to help you complete your introduction and conclusion graphic organizer. So I want to come up with a question maybe that I could use to start my paper. So I'm going to go back to my factual information about Hurricane Maria. I know that it happened on September 20th in Puerto Rico. It was a hurricane. It started as a Category 3 storm and then turned into a Category 5. 4,600 people died. They lost power. I had a story about a person I found, and they also learned something about flexible trees. So that's just information that I reviewed that I remember researching. I think that a question I could ask to get the reader interested in my paper is, have you ever been worried about losing your house? So that could be my introduction question. Have you ever been worried about losing your house? And then I could go on further and say, people in Puerto Rico were worried about losing their house to Hurricane Maria. See how that's an interesting question to start my paragraph. Or you can do a statistic. So a statistic would have to be something that includes numbers. So it would be something like the amount of people that died. That's a statistic. Or the date of the event that occurred. So I'm going to go with the amount of people who died. So I'm going to start my paragraph possibly off with, after Hurricane Maria hit, 4,600 people were found dead. Okay? Or you can do a surprising fact. So instead of using my information that I already have found that was written in my body paragraphs, I'm going to go ahead and click on the website again that I used earlier. And I'm going to look down here. I know that these blue things mean that they're pretty important. So here it says Maria was the strongest hurricane to hit Puerto Rico in more than 80 years. So I think that's a pretty interesting fact. So I'm going to say Hurricane Maria was one of the strongest hurricanes to hit. One of the strongest hurricanes in Puerto Rico. Hurricane Maria was one of the strongest hurricanes in Puerto Rico in the past 80 years. That's an interesting fact to start my introduction paragraph, okay? So I'm either going to choose my question, my statistic, or surprising fact, okay? You're not using all of these for your introduction. Then next, my task is to summarize in a few sentences what your paper is about. So I'm going to go back to my research, and I know that my first paragraph is about how the disaster occurred. My second paragraph is how it affected the people in the area. And my third paragraph was something learned from this disaster that helped society. So I know those are the three things that my body paragraphs are about. So I'm going to summarize that here. So I'm going to say Hurricane Maria was a deadly storm. How did it occur? It was a deadly storm that began small and got stronger over time. Then my second body paragraph is how did this affect the people in the area? Then I'm going to say many people were affected by the hurricane in Puerto Rico. My last paragraph we know is that it was about something that the people from Puerto Rico learned. So I'm going to say after the hurricane shouldn't be capitalized unless it's a specific name. After the hurricane, people in Puerto Rico learned many new ways to protect their towns from hurricanes in the future. Okay? After the hurricane, people in Puerto Rico learned many new ways to protect their towns from hurricanes in the future. So that's what they learned. Now, in my last sentence of the introduction, I'm going to wrap up my thoughts and get my reader ready for my body paragraphs. So it's just going to be one simple sentence to wrap up my introduction. So I'm just going to say, Hurricane Maria is an interesting storm that hurt many, but in different ways. Hurricane Maria is an interesting storm that hurt many in different ways. So now you just have to finish your conclusion. So now you're going to add one sentence to describe what your paper was all about. So again, this is very repetitive, but we want to use a little bit different wording so that we're not copying and pasting from our introduction paragraph. So one sentence to describe what your paper was all about. My paper was all about Hurricane Maria. So I'm going to say that Hurricane Maria was a natural disaster. Was a well-known natural disaster. That's my one sentence that summarizes what my paragraph was all about. It was about Hurricane Maria, which was a well-known natural disaster. Now I'm going to summarize in a few sentences the most important details of my paper. This needs to be different from the introduction. So remember how we summarized it up here and we added the most important details to help our reader get ready to read our paper? Now we're summarizing the most important details in this space, but it needs to be different from our introduction. So again, if we go back to our Hurricane Maria research page, we know that it was about how this disaster occurred, how it affected people, and what did they learn from it. So again, I'm just going to summarize those 3 quick important details super quick. So I'm going to say Hurricane Maria was a well-known natural disaster. The hurricane affected many different people in Puerto Rico. Right? That's explaining that my paper was about how it affected people in Puerto Rico. It hurt many people and destroyed parts of Puerto Rico. In the end, this hurricane helped teach the people of Puerto Rico ways to prepare for a hurricane in the future. The hurricane affected many different people in Puerto Rico. It hurt many people and destroyed parts of Puerto Rico. In the end, this hurricane helped teach the people of Puerto Rico ways to prepare for a hurricane in the future. So, this sentence helps describe how the hurricane positively affected them, right? What they learned from it. And then this sentence describes what the hurricane did, and this one describes that it affected people. So that's my quick summary. And then lastly, I need one more concluding sentence to finish my conclusion. So this concluding sentence is going to be one sentence that describes the purpose of my paper. So the purpose of my paper was to inform readers about Hurricane Maria and that natural disasters can be deadly, but also can teach people things about how to prepare in the future for them and make sure that there are not as many deaths or as many ruins of the land in the future. So that's what I'm going to write about now. So I'm going to say natural disasters like Hurricane Maria can negatively affect a place. However, it can positively prepare a place for a deadly natural disaster in the future. So that describes my purpose of my paper. I wrote about the natural disasters because I wanted to inform people about the negative effects of hurricanes and the positive effects. So now I'm done with my introduction and conclusion, and I filled out my graphic organizer so you can turn this sheet in. Okay.